You got to provide opportunities for people to grow and feel good about themselves, or positive things don't happen at the rate you want them.
Welcome to TSU Human Performance Sports Science Podcast, where we dive into the fascinating world of sports science and innovation, right here at Tennessee State University.
We are your hosts.
I'm Neil Monet
and Franka Sindicic, and today we are taking you on an exciting journey to educate, entertain, and keep you up to date of happenings right here on our campus.
In each episode of TSU HPSS, we'll bring you exclusive interviews with our expert faculty, coaches, student athletes, and our students from our departments who are making stride in this field.
You will gain the insights into the latest training techniques, nutrition strategies, and sports psychology breakthroughs that are now shaping the future of sports performance.
All while bringing it to you from an HBCU perspective. Welcome back, everybody, for a new episode of our TSU HPSS podcast. Our guest today, Dr. Heimdal. How you doing, Dr. Heimdal?
Good morning. Real well.
So, what we're gonna do? We're gonna start by you're gonna start by introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about your background as well.
Okay. Well, good morning. Thanks for having me in. I'm thankful for this opportunity. My name is James Heimdal. I grew up in the Midwest, outside of Chicago. And I'm married, currently married, and I've been married for 40 years. So I'm 66 years old. I have a son that's 21 years old studying history. My wife and I have been together since we were in the early 20s. She is also an exercise physiologist and has a similar career as I do. So we've supported ourselves professionally throughout our relationship. We went to school together at the University of Maryland We attended college together, our graduate program at University of New Orleans, where we both received degrees in exercise science. We both went on to the doctoral program at Southern Mississippi. She decided she was done with academia and she wanted to go to work. And so she got a job in cardiac rehab and worked in the fitness field and as directors and managers of cardiac rehab programs, as well as fitness programs. So I've always had that support at home academically, which I think helps, and it helps keep it on the table at work and at home. So we talk about health and fitness throughout the day at work, and then when we go home, we continue that discussion because it's very near and dear to both of us.
That's so nice. It seems like a very stable and healthy life. And I wanted to ask you then, how did you move to Tennessee? How did you end up at Tennessee State?
Well, one of my hobbies is to raise English pointers and Tennessee walking horses. So I've loved horses and dogs all my life since I was 15. And you might not know that, but within an hour drive of Nashville is like the Swiss Alps of bird dog worldom. So this week, right currently, the national championship's going on in North Mississippi, and that's the 125th annual. So there's a lot of history behind this sport, and I've been involved with it since I was 15, and I got my first pointer when I graduated from 8th grade. That was my graduation gift. And so I came also here for that job and opportunity. So I've had 35 years working to help the poor. And then my work with the poor has naturally brought me into more contact with African Americans and other minorities. And so I learned that there's a shortage of medical care providers in applied health with diversity. So when I had these large multi-million-dollar grants working with communities and community organizations, I really couldn't find the help I needed, because I believe the message the messenger is as important as the message. And so I was trying to find minority students as well as professionals to work within these grants to serve the people that needed it most. And what I found out was there's a shortage. When I was in Connecticut, I could not find an African-American registered nutritionist in the state. And so I had a multi-million-dollar grant. I couldn't find the right people I needed to do the project. So part of that was what brought me first to University of Maryland Eastern Shore, where I spent 8.5 years, where I redid that department. And I was done with that. And that is a natural cycle. I believe chairmanships in academia should last between 5 and 7 years, and then you should be forced to move out. But in my case, it was a natural process. Both times at Louisiana Tech, where I served about 6 years, and then 8.5 years at University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and then currently I was the chair here for 6 years, where we did a complete transformation here with facilities, staff, and curriculum.
So you said you're the chair of the department. Is there any other roles that you serve for our HPSS department?
Currently, I am just a professor, and a professor that I'm proud to be. Professor was always on the short list of my daily job, so it was always, you're putting out fires, serving the needs of the faculty, students, and the university and administration. So my day was usually, my wants and my plans came secondary for a long time, most of my career, which I was good with. But now my focus is teaching and trying to promote my students and prepare them for professional success, which we've done quite well with in the last 5 years.
Both Neil and I were your students, and we know that your classes usually have a lot of hands-on stuff that we do. So can you please tell us something a little bit more about your style of teaching?
I believe I start with vocabulary. Because we have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to communicate via word or written. So I start with words, trying to get people comfortable with words that they might not be familiar with off the cuff. And from words, I build into concepts. From concepts, I build into, hands-on practical application. So vocabulary, concepts, application. And while some people think maybe the application is more appropriate for more senior level students, I believe that students from freshmen through doctorate programs need to apply what they learn in the classroom, the lecture content, or it's here today and gone tomorrow. But once they make it theirs and once they can use it, they remember it. And I think they appreciate the full picture.
And one more question is, I know that you're very ambitious about your students and you're always pushing all of us forward. So what can you say that is your overall ambition for this school and this department?
Well, we're on a good track and we have good leadership now. And not that we didn't before. We have good leadership and a real positive atmosphere. So people like to come to work. They like who they work with. Everybody that works here enjoys their student and the student learning process. So that didn't used to be the case. So we're supposed to keep this positive. But when I first came, 9 years ago, it was a very hostile work environment. They had a number of setbacks internally and externally that they had to work through. So those first 2 to 3 years of my tenure were transitioning to a positive work environment, a positive outlook, and we increased the faculty quality and number as well as the facilities. We recently finished a large renovation, which I was a part of, where we renovated the classrooms as well as some of the office space, but the exercise physiology or applied physiology lab has come to realization. It was only a thought. It was my plan when I came here, so it just took it always takes longer than you would like or think. So I thought I'd do it in 3 to 5 years. It really took closer to 9 to get it done, but it's done and it'll serve decades for our students. So we're in a different environment, different opportunities, different outlook. So our students have lofty goals, but I think at this point they understand there's a process to attain them. Some younger students are going through university collecting credits, collecting a degree, thinking that job is there. Well, we all know that that's not the case. You know, you have to prepare, and you get paid for what you know and what you can do, not what your degree is. You know, your degree gets you in the door, yes. It's very important, yes. But it's not the end all, and it's not the most important ingredient to success.
So, what would be the key to be able to improve a department? Because you're saying that you are able to change the department. What does it take to get there?
Well, you know, everybody has their own view, but I felt like I led by example. You know, so I was the first one here and the last one to lead by choice. And I believe that a university professor's job is far more than teaching. You know, teaching is our number one priority, yes, but that is not our only priority. And to create a culture where research, service was also equally as important to the development of our department, as well as the development of us professionally, as well as the students' opportunities. That came together over that time by various contributions, you know, for many people in this department. You know, that wasn't a one-person deal, you know, and if it is, it's not going to work. So it took some while to get that comfortable with each other, set the mark, and start moving down the road towards those goals. And success breeds success. So when a few people got some grants, when a few people got a couple articles published, got some national presentations, started bringing our students and involving them in the research, that was the energy behind the change.
And another question would be, what is one thing that you think makes the difference between our department, HPSS, and the other departments? Not that we're in competition, but I just want to see, what do you think about it?
Well, we are different. We're all unique, you know, and it's not one's better than another.
Right.
It's just that we're different. And so people that go into health and physical education, exercise science, sport management, have some unique and collective characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
So we usually like sport. We usually like competition. We usually like the feeling of our body when we utilize it in competition or for enjoyment.
Yes.
So I think that's what makes it. So I started in education. Mm-hmm. So education teachers, we always, you know, thought of teachers in that light. In the health professions, they're also very similar to education professors. They're there because they want to make a difference in people's lives. That underlying current makes our department maybe different in some ways than an engineering department. Mm-hmm. You know, we're people-oriented. We like to see growth in people as well as accomplishing goals like everybody does, but how we accomplish those may be slightly different.
Okay.
When I'm talking to you, I often see that you're constantly trying to improve not just yourself, but also people around you. So is that one of the reasons why you chose teaching?
I don't know if I chose teaching or it chose me. So I was a jock, you know, I like sports. I went to school to participate in sports till I was, 19 or 20 years old. That was the most important part of my life. The most important people in my life were my teachers and my coaches. So it's natural at 19 or 20, you want to be a teacher because that's all you've known. But as my career has changed and I changed different formats outside and inside of academia, I found that's not necessarily the case all the time. But
so what are some of the other things that you use to work in life? I know that you're tightly connected with cardiology.
Yes. At one time, it was probably my best job, but it wasn't my favorite. My current job is my favorite job I've ever had. But probably my highest in the social economic world was the director of preventive cardiology and cardiac rehab at one of the premier cardiology department in the United States. So that was I was 40. I had some success, but that was my first big jump. So I jumped up in the ozone. I guess it partly luck, but partly, I worked for it. A combination, but I was totally out of my league at that time when I was hired. So like many people, when you're first hired in new jobs, you on-the-job train and you develop in areas you need. Well, this staff was world renowned and known all over the world. I'm serious. So I was not that. But what I did was they provided an environment that I could grow, that I could learn, that I could find ways to contribute. So that process with me is what I took on as part of my leadership role, as you see. You got to provide opportunities for people to grow and feel good about themselves, or positive things don't happen at the rate you want them. So I try to look at the good in people. I look for the good. There's good in everybody. I try to build on the good, and sometimes by building on the good and adding positive things to the environment, the negative things go away naturally. And you don't have to waste energy and negative energy and addressing them. And so was always my approach in leadership role as well as my life. I'm not much for complaining. If you're going to complain and you don't want to fix it, then maybe this isn't the place for you. You need to move on. But people that stay in roles for years and years, I don't understand that. So when I was done with the job, I moved on. Yeah, there was some fear, and yeah, there was a cost to that. But for me, I didn't have that choice. I had to go to the next mountain. And once I crossed over it, once I built it, I didn't have the interest. So I'm a builder. I like to build people. I like to build. So when I go on interviews, or I don't interview anymore, but when I went on interviews, my push was I build infrastructure and organizations, and I build capacity in people. And that's what my track record says. And that's what given me the greatest reward, by building other people past what I could ever do. So I have students now that can run circles around me. But when I found them, or they found me, we found each other, that was not the case. So I believe I was blessed, and I'm supposed to do this. And so that's why I do it with enthusiasm and in a thankful manner.
Would you say that being able to help people, being able to make them grow is your favorite part of your job? Because you said that's your favorite job you ever had.
Right. And so this was one of the worst first jobs I had, but it had nothing to me, and it really had nothing to do with the people on this hall.
Right.
It was just what happened. But even bad things happen to good people. So it was a good department, good people, but bad things happen and we're not in a good spot. Right. We all know that feeling. But unless you're really willing to do something different, to move out of that space, it's difficult. And everybody was. So when they hired me, they were ready for change. Mm-hmm. They wanted me, so I didn't want to come here. I had other jobs where the dean liked me. I had other jobs that faculty liked me. This was my last job. I said, I'm not going anywhere. I already have my second tenure job. I've been tenured 3 times at 3 different universities. So I could have stayed any of those forever. Mm-hmm. But once I built it, I looked over the hill. I want to do it again. I want to do it bigger. I want to do it better. And I did. Each time got better because I made plenty of mistakes along the way. I try not to make the same mistake over and over, but we are human. And but as a whole, I've been successful in not stopping my mistakes, but not making the same ones over and over. And those people are the ones that get held back.
So can you also tell us a little bit more about your cardiology field experience, please?
Yes. I was looking for something new. I was a professor at 2 different schools, and I had some really neat opportunities as director of laboratories and started some research. But I honestly was looking for some more money. And so college professors make decent money, but, this would double my salary, and I was ready for that. I was turning 40, and I had done that for a while, so I was ready for something new. So I did get lucky. I was hired from the Hoffman Heart Institute, and that's at St. Francis Hospital and Medical Center in Hartford, Connecticut. They're one of the premier cardiology departments in the United States. We did over 7,000 open hearts a year. So I was there for 8.5 years. I saw 50 to 60,000 open heart surgeries. So I have a lot of experience, and I know what's coming before it's coming, with heart patients, based on thousands of people going through the process. So at that job, I ran where I supervised about 34 nurses. We ran all the testing labs, all the cardiac rehab, and those nurses also worked in surgery. So in Hoffman Heart, we did open hearts. We did, 15,000, 20,000 angioplasties a year, cardio conversions. So we had the full shop, all but transplant, excuse me. And so we did not do that. I don't have any experience in that. But other than that, what I saw was a small Catholic hospital turn into the largest Catholic hospital in New England. So we had to compete against Yale, Hartford Hospital, University of Connecticut. Those are all blue bloods. So unless our game was top, and it was, our numbers could match anybody in the country from Cleveland Clinic, which everybody knows about Cleveland Clinic. Our numbers were as good or better than anyone's. And again, I can't take credit. I was hired into a very successful organization. And what we did was we maintained it and we enhanced it, i.e. the same kind of ways we did, making the nurses feel appreciated, upgrading them, developing in them so they felt like they were growing, they were becoming something better than they were, as well as that same model with our patients. And it's funny, I gave a lecture the other day on behavior modification in our corporal wellness course. And I told them I still got, on the front of it, it still has Director of Cardiology, at Hoffman Heart. So I said, this is the same message I gave my patients. We would do it every 5 weeks. My week was behavior modification. The cardiologist did one. We had all kind of important topics. But that's why that topic is so near and dear to me today, is because I know the importance of behavior modification in cardiology, physical therapy. Any type of medical setting, we need to have a behavioral approach because it's more than just giving advice. If knowledge alone would change people's behaviors, we wouldn't be needed, right? But it isn't that way, and knowledge isn't related because I worked with plenty of cardiologists that weren't picture of the health. A lot of them were workaholics, very stressed out. They were fine people, but I wouldn't say they were healthy.
Yeah.
And so they were fixing people. I was trying to prevent things. My focus has always been preventive cardiology. And so, again, that's where they were established. So what they gave me opportunity to do is go out and work in the community. You got time, you got money, you got a $500 suit on, you got a new Suburban. You go out there in the inner city and work with the minorities, the Urban League, the Hispanic Health Council, and others.
Yep.
So at first when I would drive over there, they would say, can you write a $500 check for my health fare? I said, honestly, you're not getting any money out of me. You got me. They're giving you me. And so I ended up writing $1 million grants with some of those groups that helped our community tons. That's where I got my exposure to diversity. In the Midwest, I had no diversity in my life. But from 40 on, I had more than most people ever will experience by choice. But some people were scared to work with different groups of people they were unfamiliar with. I never had that fear, and I never had that hate because that's not how we were brought up. My grandpas were both doctors. My grandfathers and uncles were all lawyers. We did a lot of community service and worked with community organizations as a whole way back before anybody even talked about it. So my grandpa and my father had things on the walls for different organizations that they helped through the courts as a judge or a doctor. And when they died, we had 400 people, black people, at the funeral. Who are these people? So I didn't know who they were, but I knew my dad and my grandfather knew him, and they respected him. That's why they attended the